Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Happy Thursday.
Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good. The weather is great. I went outside this morning first thing. It is just breathtakingly warm. This might be the last warm day of the year. And I have booked a 3-hour window today to have a personal planning meeting that will involve sand.
I like that. It's a good idea. That's good planning on your part to look ahead, know the weather, and choose to figure out what you can do.
My wife told me on Sunday, she said, hey, it's going to be 60 degrees on Thursday. That's a really warm day. And I was like, okay, let's just block out that time now in the afternoon. And worst case, I'll make calls from the beach. Best case, I will pull out my novel and read my novel for a couple hours.
No golf? Last round of golf?
No, I don't think so. I also might take my guitar up to the beach. I've never done that.
Put a little hat out, start playing.
The hat would blow away before people put enough money to keep it from blowing away.
Well, you've got to seat it, right? You got to make it look like everyone.
Yeah, I'm not that good a guitarist. Not good at all.
Says whom?
Says anyone who's ever heard me.
You might be better than the person walking down the street who's like, wow, it's really nice. They're sitting on the beach. It's nice that somebody's playing guitar. It's nice to have some music.
Could very well be. Yes. Hey, I saw a really interesting statistic in Monday's Wall Street Journal. I know I'm a couple days behind.
Okay, what was that?
Guess how many new entrepreneurs, people who are now self-employed, there have been since the pandemic started, according to the U.S. Department of Labor.
An actual number?
Yeah. Give me a ballpark number.
In the United States or the world?
In the United States. The U.S. Department of Labor only cares about the U.S.
That's fair. I forgot who this statistic was from.
Okay.
I would say there are now 250,000 new entrepreneurs.
You got half of it right. 500,000. 500,000 new entrepreneurs.
How do they determine that? That businesses were started?
Yes. Businesses were started and people left full-time employment, so they correlated those two.
Probably even more than that, right? The number of people who are starting a business but haven't registered
left a job, or they're a homemaker and they're starting a business with, Sensi or Etsy or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just haven't registered a business name.
Correct. I just think that's interesting because when you and I were kids, the whole idea of being an entrepreneur was just like way out there. Just like, remember when Back to the Future and the Christopher Lloyd character with the hair, and he was creating he was an entrepreneur, right?
Sure.
He was portrayed as very strange because that's kind of the sensibility we had towards entrepreneurs. Now here we are, 30 years later? Ooh, that makes me feel old, maybe longer. And I think that whole portrayal of an entrepreneur would be a lot different. Look at Shark Tank.
Sure. And I think there's more ways to know that people are entrepreneurs. And yet I think there were still lots of entrepreneurs back then. My parents.
Oh, yeah.
They started two businesses.
I'm not saying they weren't out there, but I think you would agree they were portrayed as the exception, not the rule.
Yes, I would agree. I think it wasn't as well. People weren't aware of it. When you think about it, people started businesses all the time. Somebody would open a little shop on Main Street. Somebody would open a restaurant. I just don't think we thought about that as entrepreneurial because maybe the word wasn't as prevalent back then. And
hey, Tom, can I interrupt for a sec? Do you see this note we're getting?
Yeah, seems like LinkedIn is having a problem with our stream.
Okay. Okay. Just wasn't sure what that meant in the big world. I guess if you're wished you were watching us on LinkedIn, you're missing out.
Yes, you are. We'll have
Yes.
to put the recording up a little bit later.
That's it. We can do that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I just think that I don't know that the word entrepreneur would be interesting to look at when that came into the dictionary. Because I think, again, every business that
I
was
will
started,
research that and have that for you tomorrow morning.
every business that was started was truly an entrepreneur. And I think that, yes, people, there weren't as many. And yet, if I just stop for a half a second and think about it, in my family, my parents, my aunt and uncle, another cousin, all decided to start a business. I think it was just it was usually a brick and mortar business at that time, obviously, because the internet was not yet found. And at the same time, they were just making decisions to do it on their own rather than work for someone else. So I think that it was out there. It just wasn't I don't think it was as well publicized.
And Tom, I did some research while you were speaking. Entrepreneur first appeared in the 1800s, but it wasn't until the middle of the 20th century that economists seriously attempted to incorporate entrepreneurship into their models.
Sure. Because there were lots of people starting businesses. There's no doubt. The local
sure.
car dealer, there was the local, you think about all the services that you get, doctors. I just don't think
franchisee of the Radio Shack or the Sears.
Sure. McDonald's, Burger King, people just didn't look at that as, I don't think that was considered entrepreneurial at the time. It was just starting a business.
Yes.
It wasn't, I think entrepreneurial is more about a mindset. And
right.
I think that's been more prevalent in the last 20 years.
But now you can study entrepreneurship at colleges. That's a track that you can major in or minor in or concentrate in. What?
Just to me, is an odd major.
Yeah. When I was teaching, I would encourage students not to major in that, to major in something else. Like the really sweet combination was like finance or economics and entrepreneurship. Then you had a story to tell, because you knew the nuts and bolts, how to make the money operate, and then you also knew the entrepreneurship side. But you also had people, when I taught Johns Hopkins, I had students who were med students who would minor in entrepreneurship because they wanted to create a product or service.
Artists would be the same.
Artists, right? Yep. Lots of artists, lots of writers would do that.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about who are truly entrepreneurs, it's pretty endless.
Oh, yeah.
And all of those things existed before the internet. You had doctors before the internet, You had artists before the internet, you had authors before the internet. So, I mean, there's the idea of that has been around. I just don't think we've thought about it that way. So interesting start to the show. I like that.
That's good. So, Tom, it's celebration time because we like to start with celebrations.
Yes. So you're asking me, what am I celebrating? Is that your question?
Yeah. What are you celebrating today?
What I am celebrating today is that I'm going to go to a networking event. We'll see how long I last. But this will be the first in-person networking event for me since, I guess January 2020, I went to one.
Wow.
So I'm venturing back out into the real world. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. You could see Tom out at a networking event near you if you're in the Baltimore, Washington area.
Yeah. With some of my nonprofit colleagues. So that'll be fun.
Okay. Nice.
At a brewery, what better place to have a networking event?
For a guy who doesn't drink, right?
Which is all right. How about you, Bob? What are you celebrating today?
I'm celebrating the great weather today, man. It is gorgeous. It is breathtaking. It is invigorating. It motivates me. It excites me.
I thought you might have celebrated the fact that you scheduled this time and that you were okay with that, and that would.
I did not. I probably should celebrate that. I will probably celebrate that tomorrow if I actually go through with it.
Okay. If you're able to do what you had planned to do.
And if I don't accept phone calls during that 3-hour window. That will be an accomplishment. If
You
I
know how you
actually
do that?
leave it in the car,
Yes, or at home.
I may very well do that. That would be worth celebration tomorrow.
What would happen if you if you brought no technology with you to the beach?
Can I take my Kindle so I can read my book on it?
Does it have email notification on it?
Nope, not at all. That's
Sure.
what I love about the Kindle.
Sure. If you want, I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, if you truly want to use this time to get away from it all, it's easy to say that and then bring your phone and then take 6 calls or make 6 calls.
Yes.
Look at
Very
email.
easy. Yes.
One way to not have to do that is don't have access to it.
And in preparation for all this, I didn't tell you, I worked till about 9:15 last night. So I logged those hours. If you're an hour follower, which I try not to be, but I find myself sometimes doing that.
That might be the next session is how to get you away from the hourly.
We should do a whole week on that.
Would be a good conversation.
Maybe that's next week.
Might just have to be.
You never know. We could slot it in. We got things scheduled, but we can always move them around, right, Tom?
Well, when a good idea comes up, you have to sometimes act on it, right?
That's it. And you probably wonder now, Tom, what is the world celebrating?
I'm more curious about what the nation is celebrating. But if you want to share the world, that's okay.
No, the nation, you're the nation. Yes. It is National Fritter Day.
Fritters?
Yes. I didn't know. Are you a fritter fan?
I'm trying to think if I think I know I've had them.
So let me tell you a little bit about fritters from the National Day calendar, folks.
Please
fritters come in various forms, from morsels dipped in flavorful batters to bits of dough stuffed or filled with delicious surprises. All of the varieties are deep fried and served hot with dips, drips, or dustings of seasonings, sweets, or sauces. Man, whoever wrote this, kudos for alliteration. You win the award. Did you hear that, Tom? That was all of the varieties are deep fried and served hot with dips, drips, or dustings of seasonings, sweets, or sauces.
That's why I got accepted, because of the description.
Hey, man, as a writer, I love it. Many people believe that the ancient Romans were the first to consume fritters, and they introduced them to Europe. Most commonly filled with fruit or cheese, fritters can also be filled with savory meats, seafood, and vegetables. How is that different than a crepe? A crepe is really thin dough. And a fritter is, a good apple fritter is like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick.
So it's a filled waffle.
I would say a less formed waffle with fruit in it.
Fruit. Okay.
I don't think you're a big fan. Well, it could be filled with cheese. It could be filled with, I guess you could put something else in it. I'm a big fan of apple fritters.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had one. Now that I hear the description.
If you go to Dunkin' Donuts, they have apple fritters.
If I'm going to Dunkin' Donuts, why am I not getting a big sugary donut?
Because it's National Fritter Day.
Okay, fair enough.
And we are frittering away our time with this episode. So why don't we turn to our topic?
Nice. See what you did there. I'll say it for you. So you wish that we would move forward?
I do wish we would move forward.
Okay. So share your thoughts. We're talking about making wishes and moving beyond wishes is our
Thank you for reminding me of the topic. That's always key.
Yeah. I had a feeling you would, at this point, had forgotten. So
as we've talked through all week, the way to move past making wishes. And first of all, we should say, for someone who hasn't paid attention to the last couple of episodes, which happens, we really do believe that there's a place for wishes. We're not saying not to wish, but we're saying from the wish, we move backwards a little bit to, okay, what are you really trying to accomplish? And then the way past that is to really look at what are the steps that you need to take. Ideally, not all the steps, because I would argue, Tom, if my wish is to own a place at the beach, okay, choose that. I'm looking out, it's beautiful. My wish is to own a place at the beach. There are a lot of steps that have to happen to get there. I have to generate enough revenue. I have to build a work situation that enables me to use a place at the beach to the level it would make sense to own it. It has to make sense to own it versus renting it. I need to start putting money away for a down payment for a place. I need to find a location. I need to figure out all the costs that I'm not thinking about, like homeowners fees and taxes, if they're taxes, all those things. Those are all steps in that process. And I think what happens with the wish, where we get caught, is my wish is to own a place at the beach. But then I'm not willing to do all the work. I'm not willing to say, you know what? I'm going to skip vacation for the next 5 years so that money can go towards a down payment on a place at the beach or some other thing. Or I'm going to put away 20% of the money I make this year is going into an account marked beach home. We often don't want to do the work necessary. And you'd say, wow, taking 20% of your money to do that. Yeah, well, if it's not just a wish, but you want it to be a reality, that's not unrealistic.
No, not at all. Well,
it may be even more.
It's making it happen rather than hoping it happens.
Correct. And I think that's what we're trying to get across this week, is the idea that it's okay to make a wish. I mean, I really do want to own a place at the beach. I've said that before. I haven't taken very many steps to get to that. I just described 6 or 7 steps, that 3 of which I've never thought about before. No kidding.
And let's see, you're at the beach. So you've created a business that allows you to do it from the beach. You're understanding.
Some might argue that, but yes.
They haven't kicked you out yet, right?
Indeed.
So, I think that it's you're further along than you think, I believe.
Well, and that's the part of the whole wish thing that I think sometimes we wish, and it's never in the million years going to happen because we're not willing to do the work, or we don't know how to do the work. I think the other extreme you just pointed out, we're busy wishing when in fact we're doing the steps to take the actions to get where we want to be.
We could be.
You
have, even though I think you probably haven't recognized it, and yet others would just move on. Be like, all right, I've got this wish, but I haven't taken any steps to truly figure out if that would be the case. You could be somebody who's working in an office and very happy and decide, you know what? I wish I could retire in a year. And then they just go along and keep doing whatever they keep doing the same thing. So the likelihood that that's going to happen is pretty unrealistic. Or you could be the person who's, I want to retire in a year, and says, hey, you know what? Well, to do that, I'm not going to take a vacation this year. I'm going to make some other sacrifices and start putting more of my paycheck away. And while they might not get to that point in a year, they're going to get to it quicker than the person who takes no steps to move forward towards that. So I think that, in your example, you are further along than you think. And I don't think you would have ever realized that until you sat down and had this conversation.
No, I would agree with that. And I think that's probably the case with a lot of people.
Because you might determine that owning isn't, why do I need to own?
Right.
Why might I? Because then I got to deal with homeowners association. I got to deal with repairs. I've got to deal with, when things go wrong.
Flood insurance and
all that other stuff. Be like, and at some point I'm going to have to sell it, and maybe that's a pain in the neck.
Right.
If I'm like, I'm tired of this beach, I want to move further south where it's always going to be nice at the beach. Then you have less hindrances to doing your next wish.
Right. So maybe the real desire, just, it can be about me for a minute, I guess. And I think it's a good example that you can apply to every situation.
Of course.
My wish is to have a beach house, but maybe the reality is I just want a place where I can come when I want to be near the beach. If Aunt Matilda had a place near the beach and I could go there whenever I wanted because she was never there, that would satisfy that need.
Sure. Well, I think what happens is that as you work towards the wish, you might realize it's not exactly the way you want. To go back to my example, like take the person who wants to retire.
Right.
And 6 months after they make that wish and they even start doing some work towards it, a new exciting project comes along. They're like, geez, that would be really fun to work on. It's going to keep me here for 2 years. Now I get to choose, like, okay, that wish was great, but what's real for me has changed. So my wish might change. And you might say, hey, all right, this is this is my new wish. And okay, what am I going to continue to do? So I think going back to your original statement is that having wishes is great because it helps us, if we choose, start to decide what we need to do to try to turn that wish into a reality. So we're able to, if we choose, take steps. There are many others who will never take any steps. And so that wish will always just stay out there and they will never know how close they are to actually achieving it or to understanding that, yeah, that wish wasn't really what I wanted. Go back to the person who wants to retire. Say they hit the lottery.
Right.
And they're like, hey, you know what? My wish was to retire in a year. I can now retire. And 6 months into retirement, they're like, all right, I can only play golf so many days and I can only lay around on the beach so many days. Now what am I going to do? Well, now maybe they start a business, but now that's changed. Retirement seemed to be the wish. And yet when we got to the wish, it was like, things have changed. Now I need a new wish that I can work towards.
And I think that's fairly common.
Of course.
You know, how many times has someone said, oh, I want a better job. I want a better job. And then the better job gets offered and they go, you know what? I kind of like where I'm working. I like the people. I like the hours. The commute's not real bad. And so they focus on that and they put that aside.
Sure. Well, because if you prescribe to what we say is that at every moment, what's real is changing.
Correct.
Because you were being influenced. Our knowledge, experience, perspectives being influenced. And so the wish we had last week, situation likely could have changed, or we haven't been influenced enough. And so our wish is still the same. So I think they can always be changing.
You know, I'm going back in my head, Tom. I don't think we ever told people this is today's antidote, and it's our daily discussion around a topic related to business or entrepreneurship or leading teams.
You don't think they got that from the header? And the podcast people who actually had to go to it and click on it?
Well, mine feeds into my car now through my phone. So when I get in my car to drive to or from the beach, I see a list of all the podcasts I've subscribed to, and I can go back and listen to ours. All I have to do is press the play button.
But you, unless you miss with where you push, you're intentionally selecting today's antidote, not whatever.
Grant Cardone or Darren Hardy or all those other guys.
Correct. So there is some intention that you knew what you were trying to accomplish.
That's fair.
So it's okay. I think that we don't have to always identify what we're doing. We were having a good conversation.
We're renegades.
Correct.
If you went to podcasting school, they tell you always start with who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, so that people are invited into the discussion.
Okay.
Also use the word you a lot.
You a lot. Okay, fair. Because you're talking.
You need this. You know what? Yeah, it's very one-on-one. I listen to a podcast
about podcasts.
Other podcasts, yes, and every now and then I take in a couple of episodes of that, and it's kind of fun.
Fair enough. How do we rate?
Overall, probably there was a great episode a couple weeks ago I was listening to where they were talking about when two people are doing a program together and that you don't want to have it scripted where you would say something like, so Tom, what do you think about our topic? Blah, blah, blah. And you would say, well, Bob, let me tell you. And I thought we rate really high on that one.
I would agree. Mostly, yeah.
On our stay focused on the topic, we might veer a little bit. But still, if you're listening to the podcast, hey, we'd still love to see a 5-car spot, not a 5-car rating, 5-star rating. Yes, 5 stars. If you have 5 cars you would like Tom and me, we can only each drive 1.
True.
I tried to get out of that. So, Tom, what's your one thing today?
So my one thing goes back to something I think we talked about yesterday. And I think when you and I were talking afterwards, we refined it a little bit. And I think it was helpful. So if we're talking about how to move beyond the wishes, I think yesterday, and I believe I sometimes forget what we talk about on the show, what we talk about afterwards, that we said if we change I wish to I want, and then we add in some other things. And I think that as we were talking afterwards, that if you say I want, the next statement has to be I will. And define, here are the things you're going to do. Because otherwise, a wish is just a hope and dreams, and that maybe, lightning falls from the sky and you win the lottery. And some of those things, that the percentage of those things happening are so small that, is it worth it to do it? Sure. And it's probably worthwhile to figure out what else you will do to try to get you closer to that wish. And so I think if you find yourself saying, I wish, or we wish, turn that into I or we want, and then I or we will do whatever it might be. And that, I think, will help you move beyond the hopes and dreams and get closer and closer to, because I think if you do that, you might come to the realization, like I think you did today, that you're further along towards your wish than you had ever thought or considered. And as you considered some of those things that were included, it might change what your wish would be. So that would be go from I wish to I want, and then I will do.
And Tom, I think it's fair to say you and I were talking about that after the program yesterday, because we think we might be putting together a workshop to help people get moving towards a different kind of 2022 by going through that process. And we had some ideas yesterday about how to bring that to life for you. So if you're saying, I'm confused about the I wish, I want, I will, that's okay. We'll have an opportunity for you, probably, I would say, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, that you'll be able to work through it with us at a pace that will enable you to really look forward to next year and really approach things with, instead of that, I wish my business was successful, I will make a successful business. And to do that, these are the things I will do.
I think so. What's your one thing?
I think my one thing is the same thing. I was thinking the same thing, that that whole idea of, you've got the wish is a great starting point. It's great to have wishes. But if they're constantly just wishes, if you stare out into the sky every morning and go, I wish that I were a millionaire, and you're not willing to do any work, odds aren't so great unless you have very wealthy relatives.
Possibly.
Or you win the lottery. But of course, the majority of people who win the lottery end up going bankrupt or losing all their money very quickly. So even when their wish comes true, because they didn't do the work to get there, they don't value what they've achieved. And next thing you know, it disappears.
Well, and they haven't considered how what's going to be now their new reality.
Correct.
And I think that's as big a part of when wishes come true that we don't think of. We aren't prepared often. And then, as you say, that wish, you kind of get to the point like, oh man, I sort of now wish this never happened.
Yep.
Excellent.
One last thing, Tom. I was supposed to send out an email late yesterday about our Cyber Monday deal, giving people one last chance to get a really great deal on the Find Success the Renegade Way 6-week program that helps you schedule better and prioritize things. I didn't do that yesterday. So with your willingness, I'd like to extend that till the end of the day tomorrow to give people a one last chance. I will be sending out an email later today, and I will give them the link right now in the chat because I have it. And if you're trying to figure out how to take advantage of your day, and that's the way I described it to someone yesterday. If you really want to take advantage of your time, not just fill your day, not just react to things. If you want to really take control and take advantage of the time you invest in whatever you're doing, whether you lead a team, whether you're a team member, whether you're a project manager, whether you're a leader, doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, if you want to really own that time and control that time rather than have it control you, this 6-week self-guided program is an answer. It's working for Tom, it's working for me, and it's working for a couple of the people that we demoed it with that were kind enough to say this has really made a difference for them. So
Absolutely.
I will put that link right here.
Great.
Oh, hey, that wasn't what I expected. I hit the wrong button. Wow. I hit the wrong button. Sorry.
Sometimes that happens.
Yes.
I've been known to do that occasionally during this show. So anyways, everyone, while Bob is doing that, I want to thank you for being with us today. And if you have something you'd like to share about how you move beyond making wishes or just about making wishes in general, please feel free, if you are watching this broadcast, to put it in the chat, because we know that there might be others out there who what you share hits home with them and makes a difference in what is real for where they are or where they are trying to go. So please feel free to include that. And we would also encourage you, whether you are watching the cast that is broad or that is pod, as Bob likes to say, that you share this with your friends and family and anyone who coworkers who you think might find value in the conversation or might be looking for, they say, I wish an awful lot. And you've been trying to figure out how to help them move beyond wishing into actually the taking action to achieve those goals that they truly desire. Please feel free to share this with them. It might be a really valuable few minutes for them to watch and get closer to where they want to be. So we hope that you've enjoyed this episode of today's Antidote. And if you'd like to have further conversations around it, please feel free to join us in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. It is our private group that's easy to join. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and then ask to join and tell us why you're a renegade. And you can become a part of our growing community of people who are trying to take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So with that, we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Hey, and embrace the renegading you, even when you're eating that fritter.
I may have to go have a fritter today.
Oh, it's mouth-watering.
Are you going to go have one?
I'm going to have to find a place that has them.
What if you go get one, take it to the beach?
Now we're on to something. I just don't know where a bakery is. I'll have to do some investigation.
Well, you might have to use the internet before you get off of the internet to go to the beach.
Now it's getting complicated.
All right. Enough
Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.